touch her!
Harlem, 1924. 3 gang members humiliated Bumpy Johnson's sister while 50 people watched in silence. The 19-year-old had no training, no weapons, just 3 hours. By midnight, their leader was on his knees begging for mercy in front of 100 witnesses. What did this quiet kid do to break Harlem's most feared men? To understand how it all led here, we go back to where it truly began. A 17-year-old black girl was found dead under the railway bridge on February 9, 1924. The police closed the case in 20 minutes. No investigation. No questions. Just another body. Another file sealed shut. That's what Harlem was. Not the Renaissance you read about in textbooks. Not the jazz and poetry and culture. That came later when white people decided black culture was fashionable. In 1924, Harlem was where hope came to die. 200,000 souls crammed into 3 square miles, suffocating. Working jobs that paid half what white workers earned. Living in tenements where 5 families shared 1 bathroom. Building something, trying to build something. Families, businesses, dignity in a city that saw them as threats or servants or both. The statistics were brutal. 3 black women attacked every week. Not assaulted, not harassed. Attacked. And nobody got arrested. Nobody got charged. The police knew. The judges knew. Everyone knew. And the Hudson Dusters made sure everyone kept knowing. They weren't just a gang. They were a system of legal terror. Irish boys from the docks who'd figured out that being white gave them immunity. Tommy Connors, Patrick Flynn, Sean O'Brien. They collected protection money from shopkeepers, roughed up anyone who looked at them wrong, reminded black residents every single day that this might be their neighborhood, but white men still owned it. The police protected them. Judges ignored their crimes. They were the unwritten law. But every law can be broken. You just need someone crazy enough to do it. The Johnson siblings lived in a small apartment on West 139th Street. 2 people. 1 dream. Survival. Margaret Johnson was 21 years old. She worked as a seamstress 14 hours a day in a downtown shop. Sewed dresses for white women who'd never look her in the eye. Made decent money. Not much, but enough. She'd been raising Bumpy since she was 15. Their father died in a street fight when Margaret was 18. 3 men beat him to death outside a speakeasy. Bumpy was 12, watched the whole thing, froze, didn't move, didn't help, just stood there while his father bled out on the pavement. Their mother died 6 months later. Heart gave out. The doctor said it was a heart attack. Margaret knew better. It was grief. So at 15, Margaret became mother, father, and sister. She had dreams once, opening her own dress shop, sending Bumpy to college, making something of their lives. But 3 years ago, those dreams almost died. Tommy Connors cornered her in an alley, tried to force himself on her. She fought, screamed. A stranger walking by intervened. Tommy ran, but he didn't forget. From that night on, Margaret lived in fear. Every footstep behind her, every shadow, every man who looked too long. She prayed every night before bed. Same prayer, same words. God, please don't let it happen again. But God wasn't listening on February 12, 1924. Bumpy Johnson was 19 years old and invisible. That's what he told himself. In their world, he didn't exist. Just another black kid sweeping floors, hauling boxes, doing whatever work white people didn't want to do. But inside his head, Bumpy was anything but invisible. He had an IQ estimated at over 140. Never took a test. Never went to high school. But he taught himself 5 languages. Read everything he could get his hands on. Napoleon's military campaigns, Sun Tzu's Art of War, Clausewitz, Machiavelli, The Prince. How power worked, how men commanded armies, how they won wars. He worked odd jobs during the day, read until 3 in the morning every night, books stacked next to his mattress, pages worn thin from rereading. His internal dialogue never stopped. In their world, I'm invisible, but one day I'll make them see me. But there was something else inside Bumpy, something darker, something that woke him up at 3 in the morning, covered in sweat. The memory of his father dying, the sounds his father made, the smell of blood on pavement, and Bumpy, 12 years old, standing 15 feet away, paralyzed with fear, unable to move, unable to help, watching his father's life drain away. 7 years of nightmares. 7 years of shame. 7 years asking himself the same question. Why didn't I do something? That question would be answered on February 12th, 1924. The morning started wrong. Margaret woke up before dawn, her heart already racing. She didn't know why, just a feeling. A coldness in her chest that wouldn't go away no matter how many times she told herself everything was fine. She got dressed slowly, put on her new dress, the blue cotton one with white trim. She'd saved 6 months for it, every spare penny. 25 cents here, 50 cents there. It wasn't expensive by white standards, but for Margaret it represented something: pride, dignity, proof that she was more than what this city tried to make her. Bumpy was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a book. Always reading, always studying. This morning it was something about military tactics. He looked up when she walked in. "You're wearing the nice dress today." Margaret forced a smile. "It's the anniversary. 3 years since Dad died. You remember?" Bumpy's face didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "I remember." How could he forget? How could either of them forget? Margaret poured coffee. Her hands shook slightly. She didn't want Bumpy to notice. "I'll be home late," she said. "Mrs. Henderson needs 3 dresses finished by tomorrow." "Oh, you work too much. We need the money." Bumpy didn't argue. They both knew she was right. Margaret finished her coffee, grabbed her coat, headed for the door. She paused, looked back at Bumpy. He was already buried in his book again. "Be safe," she said. He glanced up. "Always am." She walked out. The door closed behind her. Bumpy returned to his book, but something felt off. He couldn't explain it. Just a feeling. He looked out the window. 3 men were walking past their building. White men. Unfamiliar. They glanced up at the apartment building, seemed to be counting windows, then kept walking. Bumpy watched them go, filed the image away in his mind, then forgot about it. Outside, Margaret walked quickly. The morning air was cold. February in New York. Frost on the windows. Breath visible in clouds. She made it to work without incident. The dress shop was on 42nd Street, 10 blocks from Harlem, a different world. Clean streets, white faces, police on every corner. Margaret kept her head down, entered through the back, spent the next 12 hours bent over a sewing machine. Her fingers moved automatically. Stitch after stitch, dress after dress. Her mind wandered. She thought about Bumpy, how smart he was, how wasted his potential was in a world that wouldn't let him use it. She thought about their father, wondered what he'd think of them now. She thought about her dream of opening a dress shop, how impossible it seemed. And she thought about Tommy Connors. She tried not to, tried to push the memory down. But on days like this, on the anniversary of their father's death, the fear came back stronger. 3 years. 3 years since that night in the alley. 3 years of looking over her shoulder. 3 years of taking different routes home. 3 years of praying he'd forgotten about her. But men like Tommy Connors don't forget. At 7 in the evening, Margaret finished her last dress. Mrs. Henderson inspected it, nodded approval, paid Margaret her wages, $3 for 14 hours of work. Margaret left through the back door, started the walk home. The streets were busy, people heading home from work, shopkeepers closing up. The evening crowd starting to gather outside speakeasies. Margaret walked down 134th Street toward Lenox Avenue. Her usual route. She'd walked it 1,000 times, every landmark familiar. The grocery store on the corner, the barber shop with the broken sign, the alley where kids played stickball during the day. Safe, predictable, routine. But tonight something felt different. She first noticed it at the corner of 136th and Lenox. The feeling of being watched, eyes on her back. She glanced behind her. The street was crowded, dozens of people. No one looking at her. She kept walking. The feeling didn't go away. Her heart started beating faster. She told herself she was being paranoid. Told herself it was just the anniversary making her nervous. Told herself everything was fine. But her body knew better. At 135th Street, she looked back again. 3 figures, about half a block behind, moving when she moved, stopping when she stopped. Margaret's mouth went dry. She picked up her pace, not running. That would draw attention. Just walking faster, purposeful. The 3 figures matched her speed. She was 2 blocks from home, 2 blocks from safety. She could make it. Just keep walking. Don't look back. Don't give them a reason. But then she made a decision, a calculated risk. There was an alley between 134th and 135th. A shortcut. She'd used it dozens of times. It would cut a full block off her walk, get her home faster. She turned into the alley. The moment she did, she knew she'd made a mistake. The alley was darker than she remembered. The streetlights didn't reach here. Just shadows and the smell of garbage and standing water. She was halfway through when she heard footsteps behind her. Fast. Running. She started to turn, started to run. Too late. 3 figures stepped out of the shadows ahead of her, blocking the exit. Margaret froze. Her heart was hammering. Her hands were shaking. She looked behind her. The entrance to the alley was blocked too. Trapped. The figure in the middle stepped forward into a sliver of light from a window above. Margaret's blood turned to ice. Tommy Connors, that scar on his left cheek, that smile. "Hello, Margaret." His voice was casual, friendly, like they were old acquaintances. "Been a while, hasn't it?" Margaret couldn't speak. Her throat had closed up. She took a step back, hit the wall. 3 years, Tommy continued. He moved closer, slow, savoring it. 3 years since our last conversation. You remember that night, don't you? Margaret's voice came out as a whisper. "Please, please." Tommy laughed. "Please what? Please leave you alone. Please forget about you." He shook his head. "I don't forget, Margaret. I never forget." Patrick Flynn stepped up beside Tommy. He was shorter, stockier, mean eyes. "Nice dress," he said. "Special occasion." Sean O'Brien circled behind her, cut off any chance of escape. "Yeah, that's a real pretty dress. Must have cost you." Margaret pressed herself against the wall, looking for a way out, any way out. There wasn't one. Tommy reached out, touched the collar of her dress. She flinched. "You know what your problem is," Tommy said softly. "You think you're better than what you are. Coming up from the South, buying nice dresses, walking around like you're quality." His fingers tightened on the fabric. "But you're not quality. You never will be. I haven't done anything to you," Margaret whispered. "No." Tommy's smile widened. 3 years ago, you made me look weak, running away, screaming, making a scene. Do you know how many people heard about that? How many people laughed at me? I'm sorry. Oh, you will be." Tommy pulled. The fabric tore. Not completely. Just enough to expose her shoulder. Just enough to show he could. Margaret gasped. Tears started forming. "Here's how this works," Tommy said. His voice was calm, patient, like explaining something to a child. I'm going to ask you questions. Every time you scream, I tear more of this pretty dress. Every time you cry too loud, I hurt you worse. Understand? Margaret bit her lip, nodded. Good girl. First question. Where's your little brother? Margaret's mind was racing. She couldn't tell him, couldn't lead these animals to Bumpy. I don't know, she whispered. Tommy tore another piece of her dress. She gasped but didn't scream. Wrong answer. Try again. Where's your brother? He's out. I don't know where. Flynn laughed. She's protecting him. That's sweet. Tommy tore again. The dress was hanging off her now. She tried to hold it together with her hands, tried to cover herself. You think he'd protect you? Tommy asked. You think that little boy would do anything if he knew what was happening right now? Margaret couldn't answer. Tears were streaming down her face. She was biting her lip so hard she tasted blood. That's what I thought, Tommy said. Nobody's coming to save you, Margaret. Nobody cares. Look around. Margaret looked. They were in an alley, but not a closed one. People were walking past on both ends. 50 people. Maybe more. They could hear everything. See everything. Nobody stopped. Nobody looked. Nobody helped. An old woman at the mouth of the alley started to step forward. Her son grabbed her arm. Margaret heard him. Mama, you want us to be orphans. Keep walking. The old woman kept walking. A man in a work coat stopped, looked, made eye contact with Margaret. She saw it in his face. He wanted to help. But then he looked at Tommy, looked at his friends, looked at the impossible odds. He turned away. Kept walking. Margaret saw tears on his face. A child no more than 7 tugged on his father's sleeve. Daddy, why isn't anyone helping that lady? The father's voice was broken, defeated. Because this world ain't fair, son. That's just how it is. Tommy slapped Margaret, hard. The sound echoed off the alley walls. Sharp, loud, unmistakable. Her cheek exploded in pain. She tasted blood. Her vision blurred. That's for making me wait 3 years, Tommy said. Flynn whistled. Damn, Tommy. That left a mark. O'Brien laughed. Want to leave another one. But Tommy held up his hand. Not yet. I want her to remember this. Every detail. Every second. He leaned close to Margaret, whispered in her ear. His breath was hot and disgusting. 3 years ago you escaped. You got lucky. Some good Samaritan came along and saved you. He paused. Let the words sink in. But look around, Margaret. You see any good Samaritans tonight? Margaret sobbed. She couldn't help it. The fear, the pain, the humiliation. It all came pouring out. Tommy smiled. That's better. That's what I wanted to see. He grabbed her face, forced her to look at him. Now listen carefully. I'm letting you go tonight. Not because I'm merciful. Because I want you to carry a message. What message? Margaret's voice was barely audible. Tell your brother. Tell him that if he tries anything, if he comes looking for me, if he even thinks about revenge, I will find you again. And next time, there won't be a next time. Understand? Margaret nodded. She'd agree to anything. Say anything. Just to make this stop. Say it. I understand. Say it louder. I understand. Margaret's voice broke. Tommy let go of her face, stepped back. Good. Now get out of here. And Margaret. He smiled one last time. Nice dress. The 3 men walked away, laughing, congratulating each other, replaying the whole thing like it was a game they'd won. Margaret collapsed against the wall. Her legs wouldn't hold her. Her dress was in tatters. Her face was swelling. Her lip was bleeding. And 50 people had watched it happen. 50 witnesses. 50 cowards. She didn't know how long she sat there. Could have been minutes. Could have been an hour. Time had stopped meaning anything. Finally, she forced herself to stand. Wrapped her coat around herself. Covered the torn dress as best she could. Started walking home. Each step was agony, not physical pain, something worse. The knowledge that she was alone, that nobody would help, that this was just how the world worked. She wanted to scream, wanted to rage, wanted to burn everything down. Instead, she just walked, one foot in front of the other, 43 minutes from that alley to West 139th Street. 43 minutes to decide what to tell Bumpy, whether to tell him at all. By the time she reached their building, she'd made her decision. She'd lie. Say she fell. Say she got mugged. Anything but the truth, because the truth would get Bumpy killed. She climbed the stairs slowly, stopped outside the door, took a deep breath, wiped her eyes, put on the face she always wore, the one that said everything was fine. Then she opened the door. At 8:13 at night, Bumpy was sitting at the kitchen table reading The Art of War, page 47. The passage that would change his life. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. He was so absorbed he almost didn't hear the footsteps in the hallway. But something made him look up. Some instinct. The footsteps were wrong. Too slow. Too hesitant. Margaret never walked like that. His stomach dropped. He stood up. The book fell from his hands. The door opened. Time stopped. Margaret stood in the doorway. Her coat was wrapped tight around her, but Bumpy could see the torn fabric underneath. See her swollen cheek. See the blood on her lip. See the way she was shaking, but the worst part was her eyes. Empty. Hollow. Dead. Bumpy had seen those eyes before. 7 years ago. On his mother's face the day after they buried his father. The eyes of someone whose soul had been broken. He crossed the room in 3 steps. Didn't touch her. Didn't know if she'd want him to. His voice came out wrong. Too quiet. Too calm. Like ice. Who? Margaret shook her head. Don't. Who did this? Bumpy, please. Who? His voice cracked. Louder now. Desperate. Margaret flinched, started crying. Real crying. The kind that came from somewhere deep and couldn't be stopped. They'll kill you, she sobbed. They said if you do anything, they'll kill both of us. They'll come back and finish it, and there's nothing you can do because they own this city and we're nothing and… Margaret. Bumpy's hands were shaking. Was it Tommy Connors? The question hung in the air. Margaret's face gave him the answer. She collapsed. Just fell to her knees right there in the doorway. 7 years of holding it together. 7 years of being strong. 7 years of protecting Bumpy. All of it shattered in that moment. I'm sorry, she gasped. 3 years ago I got away. I thought he'd forgotten. I thought I was safe. But tonight he… And there were 50 people, and nobody helped, and I couldn't do anything, and I'm so sorry. Bumpy stood there. His whole body was shaking, not from fear, from something else. Something building inside him like a dam about to break. Images flashed through his mind. His father on the pavement, blood pooling, the sounds he made as he died. His mother in bed. Too sad to move, dying slowly from grief. 7 years of nightmares. 7 years of asking himself why he didn't do something. 7 years of being too afraid to act. And now this. His sister. The only family he had left. Broken, humiliated, hurt. While 50 people watched and did nothing. A voice spoke in his head. His own voice. Cold and clear as crystal. This time are you brave enough? Bumpy knelt down. Held Margaret. She cried into his shoulder. Don't go, she whispered. Please, Bumpy, I'm begging you. Don't go. They'll kill you. Bumpy pulled back. Looked at her. Something in his eyes had changed. Margaret saw it. It terrified her more than Tommy Connors ever could. You taught me something tonight, Bumpy said quietly. What? You always told me. Knowledge is power. That books would save me. that if I just studied hard enough, learned enough, I could make something of myself. Bumpy, but tonight you taught me something else. Margaret grabbed his arms. What are you talking about? Sometimes the only power that matters is not being afraid to die. No. Margaret was crying harder now. No, don't say that. Don't even think that. Bumpy stood up, gently pulled away from her. You remember the story about Spartacus, the one you used to tell me when I was little. Bumpy, please. You said he chose to fight even though he knew he'd lose. You said better to die on your feet than live on your knees. He walked toward the table. Tonight I choose to stand. You'll die, Margaret screamed. They'll kill you and I'll be alone and it'll be my fault. Bumpy didn't answer. He sat down at the table, pulled out paper and a pencil, started drawing. What are you doing out planning? For 30 minutes, Margaret begged him to stop, begged him to forget about it, begged him to run away with her. They could leave Harlem, go somewhere else. Start over. Bumpy ignored her. He was completely focused, drawing diagrams, writing notes, mapping out 3 locations. Flynn, outside MMKN's pub every night, drinks until he can barely stand. Weakest fighter, emotionally unstable. Target 1, O'Brien. Speakeasy on West 137th. Usually there until 10. Violent but predictable. Relies on strength over strategy. Target 2. Tommy, the leader, the smartest, the most dangerous. Save him for last. Make sure he's exhausted. Make sure he's scared. Bumpy prepared 3 things. A small knife from the kitchen. He wrapped it in cloth and slid it into his shoe. A bottle of kerosene from under the sink. He didn't explain why. And a brass whistle Margaret had bought him years ago. He hung it around his neck. He wrote one last thing on the paper. Folded it. Left it on the table. If I die, don't cry for me. I'm only doing what I should have done 7 years ago. At 8:43, he stood up, put on his coat, headed for the door. Margaret grabbed his shirt, held on with everything she had. You're going to die. Tommy will kill you. Bumpy looked at her one last time. Maybe. But at least I'll die trying to protect you. That's more than anyone else did tonight. He walked out. The door closed. Margaret stood alone in that kitchen. Just knowing that the brother who walked out that door would not be the same person who came back. If he came back at all. Bumpy walked through Harlem streets at night. The air was cold. His breath came out in clouds. His hands were in his pockets. Steady. Calm. Inside his mind was racing, calculating, planning. Every detail mattered. Every move had to be perfect. He found Flynn at 9:15 at night, exactly where he expected. Outside MCN's pub on 133rd Street. Drunk. Leaning against the wall, smoking. Bumpy approached slowly, quietly. Flynn didn't notice until Bumpy was 10 feet away. You're Patrick Flynn, right? Flynn looked up, squinted, saw a colored kid standing in the street. Smiled. What colored boy dares say my name? Bumpy stopped. 5 feet away. Close enough to talk. Far enough to move if he needed to. You remember the girl in the blue dress this evening? In the alley off 134th Street. Flynn's smile widened. Oh, her. Yeah, I remember. That whore wore such a nice dress I had to. Bumpy cut him off. With his fist. Straight to Flynn's nose. Fast as a snake. Precise as a surgeon. The cartilage crunched. Blood sprayed. Flynn staggered back, hands going to his face. What the Bumpy hit him again. Same precision. This time the ribs. He felt something crack. Flynn went down, gasping, trying to reach for something in his belt. A knife. Bumpy saw it. Let Flynn get it halfway out, then kicked. Not Flynn's hand, his knee. Direct hit. The sound it made. Crack. Sharp and clean. Flynn screamed. Bumpy was on him, methodical, controlled. Each punch placed exactly where it needed to go. Ribs. I'm sorry. Ribs again. I'm sorry. Face. I'm sorry. Stomach. I'm sorry. But something strange was happening. Something Bumpy didn't expect. He'd thought his hands would shake. Thought he'd feel sick. Thought fear would paralyze him, like it did 7 years ago. None of it came. Instead, he felt calm, crystal clear, focused. Like everything he'd read, everything he'd studied, every military strategy and tactical manual had all been preparing him for exactly this moment. Flynn was choking on blood, trying to speak. Please, whatever I did, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Bumpy stopped, grabbed Flynn's hair, pulled his head up, looked him in the eyes. You know why I keep saying I'm sorry? Flynn couldn't answer, could barely breathe. Because I was raised to be polite. My sister taught me manners, respect, how to be a good person. Bumpy's voice was still calm, conversational. But being polite doesn't mean being weak, and tonight you're going to learn the difference. He leaned closer. My name is Bumpy Johnson. Margaret is my sister, and every time you look in a mirror and see what I did to your face tonight, you're going to remember that you don't touch black women. Ever. You understand? Flynn nodded frantically, blood and tears mixing on his face. Bumpy let go, stood up. Flynn collapsed in a heap. Bumpy looked at his hands. Flynn's blood covered his knuckles. Dark, wet. Real. He waited for the guilt, the horror, the shame. It didn't come. Just emptiness, cold, focused. And underneath it all, a strange sense of purpose. He'd spent 19 years invisible, 19 years being nothing, 19 years afraid. That version of himself died in that alley 7 years ago, watching his father bleed out. Tonight, someone new was being born. Bumpy walked into the night, blood on his hands, heart beating steady. 2 more to go. And somewhere in a speakeasy on 137th Street, O'Brien was pouring another drink, laughing with friends, completely unaware that death was walking toward him. Bumpy walked through the dark streets of Harlem, blood still wet on his knuckles. Flynn's blood. The night air was cold against his skin, but he barely felt it. His mind was somewhere else. Calculating, planning. 2 more to go. He didn't know it yet, but word was already spreading. At 9:45 at night, a kid no more than 12 years old burst through the doors of the speakeasy on West 137th Street. Out of breath, eyes wide. He'd been running. Flynn's down, the kid shouted. Some colored kid beat him half to death, left him in the street. The bar went quiet. 30 people stopped drinking, stopped talking, turned to look. Sean O'Brien was sitting at a corner table with 2 friends. Big man, 6'1", 200 pounds of muscle and meanness. He'd been drinking since 6. Not drunk yet, just loose, relaxed. He heard the kid, smiled. A colored kid. O'Brien stood up, laughed. Finally one of them grows a spine. His friends looked nervous. Sean, maybe you should kiss her. Should what? O'Brien poured himself another whiskey, drank it in one gulp. Should run, should hide. He slammed the glass down. I've been waiting for this. 10 years in Harlem, and not one of them has tried to fight back, not one. He turned to the crowd, raised his voice. You all hear that some kid is coming for us, and when he gets here, I'm going to teach him what happens when you forget your place. The crowd didn't cheer, didn't react, just watched. O'Brien didn't care. He was excited. Finally, something interesting. Across town in an office above the Savoy Ballroom, Stephanie St. Clair was reviewing her numbers for the week. The Queen of Numbers. That's what they called her. She ran the most successful illegal lottery in Harlem, made thousands of dollars every week, had connections to politicians, police judges. Power. One of her men knocked on the door, entered without waiting for permission. Boss, you need to hear this. Stephanie looked up. Didn't like being interrupted. This better be good. There's a kid, 19 years old. Just put Patrick Flynn in the hospital. Word is he's going after the whole Hudson Dusters crew. Stephanie set down her pencil. Name? Bumpy Johnson. She smiled. Not a warm smile. A calculating one. I know that name. Margaret Johnson's little brother. The quiet one who reads all the time. Yeah, not so quiet anymore. Stephanie leaned back in her chair, thinking. Where is he now? Heading to the speakeasy on 137th. O'Brien's there. And Tommy. Tommy knows. He's planning something. Stephanie nodded slowly. Follow the kid. Don't interfere. I want to see how far he gets. You sure Boss Kid might die? Then he dies. But if he lives, she smiled again. Then I want to meet him. Meanwhile, Tommy Connors was in a phone booth 3 blocks from where Flynn lay bleeding. He'd gotten the news 5 minutes ago. Made 2 phone calls. Now he was making a 3rd. Mickey. Yeah, it's Tommy. I need you and Frank at the old warehouse on 141st. Now. He listened. I don't care if you're busy. Get there. He hung up. Tommy wasn't panicking. He was thinking. This kid, whoever he was, had made a mistake. A big mistake. Flynn was weak. Emotional. Easy to catch off guard. But Tommy had been in this game for 10 years. Killed 3 men. Broke dozens more. He wasn't going to lose to some teenager. He just needed the right setup. The right location. Somewhere with no witnesses, no interruptions. The warehouse was perfect. Tommy smiled. Come find me, kid. Let's see how brave you really are. By the time Bumpy reached the speakeasy on West 137th Street, his shoulder was throbbing. The walk had taken 15 minutes. Each step hurt, but he couldn't stop. Couldn't slow down. If he stopped, he'd start thinking. And if he started thinking, he might lose his nerve. He pushed through the doors. 30 heads turned. 30 pairs of eyes locked on him. The room went dead silent. Bumpy stood in the doorway. Flynn's blood still visible on his shirt. He didn't try to hide it. Wanted them to see it. Wanted them to know what was coming. His heart was hammering, but his feet didn't move. Didn't step back. He scanned the room. Looking. There. Corner table. Big man. Scar on his left hand. That had to be O'Brien. Bumpy started walking. Slow, deliberate. The crowd parted. Nobody tried to stop him. O'Brien stood up, grinning. You're the kid, huh? Gotta say you look pretty weak for someone who just took down Flynn. The crowd laughed. Nervous laughter. Not sure what was happening. Bumpy stopped 10 feet away. Studying O'Brien, reading him like he'd read 1,000 books, the way he stood, favored his left side, the scar on his left hand. Old knife wound, probably from a fight years ago, meant he was used to using his right hand to defend, left to attack. Weakness on the right side, remember that. You're Sean O'Brien, Bumpy said. His voice was calm. Too calm. This evening, corner of 134th and Lenox. You stood on the right side of Tommy Connors. You laughed when he tore my sister's dress. You whistled at her like she was an animal. O'Brien's grin widened. Oh, the girl in the blue dress. You're the little brother. He laughed. Well, then today I'm going to Bumpy cut him off. You won't finish that sentence. Then everything exploded. O'Brien moved first, faster than Bumpy expected, pulled a knife from his belt, lunged. Bumpy grabbed a bottle from the nearest table, swung. The bottle connected with O'Brien's head. Glass shattered, blood sprayed. But O'Brien didn't go down. Too big. Too strong. Too used to taking hits. He swung back, caught Bumpy across the face with his fist. Bumpy's lips split. Blood filled his mouth. O'Brien came at him again, knife flashing. Bumpy tried to dodge. Almost made it. Almost. The blade caught his left shoulder, sliced through fabric, through skin. into muscle. The pain was instant, blinding. Bumpy gasped, stumbled back. The crowd was screaming now, chairs scraping, people backing away, giving them space. O'Brien advanced. "You made a big mistake, boy." Bumpy's shoulder was on fire, blood soaking through his shirt, running down his arm. He could feel it. Warm. Wet. Real. His mind flashed to Margaret. How she'd looked. How she'd cried. How she'd suffered in silence while 50 people watched. Margaret went through worse, he whispered to himself. She didn't scream. She endured. O'Brien stabbed again. Bumpy sidestepped, barely, grabbed O'Brien's wrist, held on. Then he did something nobody expected. He reached up, grabbed the knife handle and pulled the blade out of his own shoulder. The crowd went silent. Absolute silence. Shock on every face. Blood poured from the wound. Bumpy swayed, vision blurring. But now he had the knife. O'Brien's eyes went wide. "You're crazy." Bumpy smiled, blood on his teeth. "Crazy, no. I'm just doing what needs to be done." He attacked, not with the knife, with everything else. Grabbed another bottle, smashed it into O'Brien's ribs, grabbed a chair, swung it into O'Brien's legs. O'Brien tried to fight back, threw punches, connected, Bumpy's jaw, his ribs, his stomach. But Bumpy had studied him, knew exactly where to hit. The right side, the weak side, the old injury that never healed properly. Every punch Bumpy threw went to the same spot, over and over, breaking down the defense. 90 seconds of pure chaos, glass breaking, wood splintering, blood everywhere. Then O'Brien went down, hard, hit the floor and didn't get up. Bumpy stood over him, breathing hard, the knife still in his hand, blood dripping from his shoulder, from his face, from his knuckles. The entire bar was frozen, 30 people, not one of them moving. Bumpy raised the knife, everyone held their breath. This was it. He was going to do it, going to kill O'Brien right there. Then Bumpy threw the knife, away. It clattered to the floor in the corner. "I won't kill you," Bumpy said. His voice was shaking, from pain, from exhaustion, from something else. "Not because you deserve to live, but because I won't become what you are." He turned, faced the crowd, blood running down his arm, soaking his shirt, dripping onto the floor. "I didn't want this," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I didn't want to fight. I didn't want violence. But when someone hurts your family, your sister, your mother, your wife, what do you do? What would any of you do?" Silence. 5 full seconds of it. Then an old man in the back stood up. Black man, maybe 60 years old. Hands weathered from decades of hard work. He started clapping. Slow, deliberate, each clap echoing in the silent room. Then another man stood, joined the applause. Then another. And another. Within seconds, 30 people were on their feet. Clapping. Shouting. "Ah, that's right. About time. Show them we're not afraid." The bartender, a white man, started screaming. "I'm calling the cops. You're all crazy." He reached for the phone. A black man, big guy with a dock worker's build, stepped in front of the door, crossed his arms. "Go ahead," he said to the bartender. "Call them. But before they get here, 30 of us are going to tear this place apart. Your choice." The bartender's hand froze on the phone, looked at the crowd, looked at the man blocking the door, put the phone down. Bumpy started walking toward the exit. Each step hurt. His shoulder was screaming. His legs were shaking. Blood loss, exhaustion, adrenaline crash. He made it to the door. Almost through. 15 men followed him out. Black men, different ages, different backgrounds. But all of them had the same look in their eyes. Bumpy turned. "Where are you going?" A man about 30 years old spoke. "With you. Tommy Connors needs to pay." "No," Bumpy said. "This is my fight." "No, it's not." The man stepped closer. It's all of ours. For 10 years we've taken it. Taken the insults, the beatings, the humiliation. We told ourselves it was safer to stay quiet. But tonight you showed us we can fight back. Bumpy wanted to argue, but his vision was blurring. He grabbed a wall to steady himself. You need help, someone said. Not yet. Bumpy's voice was fading. Tommy needs to see this blood. Needs to know I'm willing to die. They walked together through Harlem streets. 16 people, blood dripping behind them like a trail. Windows opening, people watching. At 10:30, a kid ran up to them, maybe 14. Out of breath. Message from Miss St. Clair. The kid gasped. Tommy's not at his usual spot. He's at the old warehouse on 141st. He's got 2 men with him. It's a trap. Bumpy smiled, weak, but genuine. I know. The men around him exchanged looks. You know it's a trap and you're still going. If I don't, he'll go after my sister. This ends tonight. Then we're coming with you. No. Bumpy's voice was firm despite the exhaustion. You stay outside. If I'm not out in 30 minutes, then you come in. Why? Bumpy looked at them, really looked at them. Because if we all go in together, Tommy will say we only won because we outnumbered him. But if I go in alone, he paused, then all of Harlem will know I beat him fair. The older man from the bar nodded slowly. You're 19, but you think like a general. I read the books generals wrote. They reached the warehouse at 11 o'clock. Old building, 3 stories. Most of the windows broken. The smell of oil and rust and decay. Bumpy checked his supplies, the small knife in his shoe, the bottle of kerosene wrapped in cloth, the brass whistle around his neck. One of the men noticed the whistle. What's that for? To call you, but only if I really need it. Bumpy looked at each of them. If I don't blow it and 30 minutes pass, it means I'm dead. When that happens, run. Don't try to avenge me, just live. That's more important. He walked toward the warehouse entrance. Alone. Inside the darkness was absolute. 1 oil lamp flickering on the ground floor, creating more shadows than light. The ceiling was high. 3 floors, catwalks and old machinery. Sound echoed. Bumpy's heart was racing, 120 beats per minute. He could feel it. For the first time tonight, real fear. His shoulder hurt so much he could barely lift his arm. He'd lost a lot of blood. Vision swimming, legs weak. If I die here, he thought, at least Margaret will know I tried. Then he heard it. Footsteps, from 3 different directions. Tommy Connors emerged from the shadows ahead. 2 men with him, Mickey and Frank. Bumpy didn't know their names, but he could see their weapons. Tommy had a hammer, not a knife. He wanted this to last. Wanted Bumpy to suffer. Mickey had a chain, heavy iron links. Frank had a baseball bat. Bumpy was surrounded. Brave kid, Tommy said. His voice echoed. Coming in here alone. But brave and stupid are different things. You think I'm stupid. Bumpy's voice was steady, calmer than he felt. I calculated this. Tommy laughed. Calculated. There's 3 of us. We're armed. We're experienced. What exactly did you calculate? Bumpy smiled through the blood and pain. That you won't kill me. Tommy's smile faded. What? If you kill me, 15 men outside will burn Harlem down. The police will have to investigate. Stephanie St. Clair already knows I'm here. She knows you're here. You kill me, you die too. Not tonight. But soon. Tommy's face went pale. How do you? The art of war, Bumpy said. Best battlefield is the one where your enemy is too afraid to fight. I made this your grave before I even walked in. For a moment, Tommy just stared. Then his face twisted with rage. Break him, he screamed at his men. Break his arms and legs, but don't kill him, Mickey and Frank charged. Bumpy moved. Fast. Faster than he should have been able to move given his injuries. He kicked the oil lamp. Darkness. Complete darkness. Ran for the stairs. Up to the second floor. Can't fight three at once, he thought. Have to separate them. Mickey followed. Bumpy heard him. Heavy footsteps on the metal stairs. Bumpy pulled out the kerosene bottle, poured it across the floor, backed into a corner. Mickey appeared. Couldn't see well in the dark. Took a step. Slipped. The kerosene made the floor like ice. He went down hard. Bumpy was on him instantly, kicked him in the head. Once, twice. Mickey stopped moving. One down. Frank was smarter. Came up slowly, carefully. Chain rattling with each step. He swung the chain. Caught Bumpy across the injured shoulder. Bumpy screamed. Couldn't help it. The pain was unbearable. Frank swung again. Bumpy ducked. Barely. Then something in Bumpy snapped. Some primal instinct. He lunged forward, bit Frank's hand. Frank screamed. Dropped the chain. Bumpy grabbed it, swung, connected with Frank's head. Frank went down. Two down. Now just Tommy. Bumpy came back down the stairs. Slowly. Painfully. Tommy was waiting. They faced each other. Both exhausted. Both hurt. Both knowing this was the end one way or another. Tommy had the hammer. Bumpy had nothing. Just you and me now, kid. Tommy swung. The hammer whistled through the air. Bumpy dodged. The hammer hit the wall. Concrete cracked. Bumpy rushed in. Threw a punch. Connected with Tommy's ribs. Tommy backhanded him. Bumpy flew backwards. Hit the ground. Tommy was on him. Dropped the hammer. Hands going for Bumpy's throat. Squeezing. Bumpy couldn't breathe. Tried to push Tommy off. Couldn't. Too weak. Too hurt. Too tired. 10 seconds. 9, 8. Vision going dark. Images flashed. His father dying. His mother crying. Margaret's tears. The promise he made. Never again. 7, 6, 5. Bumpy's hand found his shoe. Found the knife hidden there. 4, 3. He pulled it out. 2. Stabbed upward, into Tommy's thigh. Not deep, not fatal. But enough. Tommy screamed. Let go. Bumpy gasped. Air flooding back into his lungs. He pushed Tommy off, scrambled on top of him, the knife at Tommy's throat. Both of them knew. One push, one movement, and Tommy dies. Tommy was shaking. Do it. You won. Just do it. Bumpy's hand was trembling, the knife pressing against skin. 1 inch from ending it. No, Bumpy whispered. What? Death is too easy for you. Bumpy's voice was cold. You're going to live. Live with everyone knowing what you are. Live with the shame. He stood up, grabbed Tommy by the collar, started dragging him toward the door. Outside, the 15 men rushed forward, shocked to see both of them alive. Come on, Bumpy said. We're going to 134th Street. You're hurt bad, someone said. I'll survive. But this has to be finished. They walked through Harlem. Word spread faster than fire. Windows opened. Doors opened. People poured into the streets. By the time they reached the corner of 134th and Lenox, 100 people were there. Waiting. Watching. Margaret pushed through the crowd, saw Bumpy, covered in blood, barely standing. Bumpy, you're hurt. Stay there, Margaret. Watch what I do. He threw Tommy down, right in the middle of the street, the exact spot where Margaret had been humiliated 4 hours ago. Kneel. Tommy looked up. I won't. Bumpy put the knife to his throat. Kneel or die. Choose. Tommy knelt. Apologize. To my sister. To everyone here. Tommy's voice was barely audible. I'm sorry. Louder, so everyone can hear. I'm sorry. Tommy was crying now. I'm sorry for touching her. I'm sorry for what I said. I'm sorry. Margaret walked forward, stood in front of Tommy, looked down at him. She didn't say anything, just looked, tears running down her face. But these weren't tears of pain. These were different. Vindication. Justice. Proof that she mattered. Bumpy turned to the crowd. 100 faces. 100 witnesses. This is what happens when you hurt our families. You don't die. You live with everyone knowing what you really are. You live with the shame. Forever. He looked at Tommy one last time. Leave Harlem. Don't ever come back. Tommy crawled away, on his hands and knees, 100 people watching. Not one person helped him. And Bumpy Johnson, 19 years old, covered in blood, barely able to stand, stood in the middle of Harlem like a king. But this victory was just the beginning, because in the shadows, Stephanie St. Clair was watching, smiling. And tomorrow she would change his life forever. The sun rose over Harlem at 6 in the morning. 5 men helped Bumpy walk home, his shoulder wrapped in torn cloth, blood soaked through, face swollen, ribs cracked. But his eyes were different, brighter, alive. Margaret was waiting. She ran to him, crying, "You're insane, you almost died." Bumpy winced but didn't pull away. "But I didn't die. And now you're safe." "Safe. The police will arrest you." Bumpy smiled, tired but genuine. "The police won't come. I planned for that." Someone knocked. Margaret froze. Bumpy opened the door. Stephanie St. Clair stood there, elegant, powerful, the queen of numbers. "Bumpy Johnson, we need to talk." Inside, 3 people sat at the kitchen table. Stephanie studied Bumpy, the wounds, the exhaustion, the strength underneath. "Do you know what you just did?" she asked. "I protected my family." "No, you started a war. Hudson Dusters will come for revenge. That's why I need your protection, and you need someone like me." Stephanie laughed, confident. "You're 19, no money, no power. What makes you think I need you?" "Because I have something you don't, a reason to fight without fearing death. Someone like me is more dangerous than 100 gunmen." Stephanie studied him. This wasn't a scared kid. This was someone who understood power. "What do you want? I work for you, not as muscle, as a strategist. I've read military history. I know how to win without bloodshed." Stephanie sat back, thinking. Looking at Bumpy, she saw something rare, not a thug. A general waiting to be born. "All right. But power changes people. Don't let it turn you into Tommy Connors." "I never will, because I have someone to protect. That's the difference between power that destroys and power that builds." Stephanie smiled, extended her hand. "Welcome to the organization." 3 months later, Hudson Dusters were finished. Tommy Connors disappeared. Never returned to Harlem. Died alone years later. Nobody remembered his name, but they remembered Bumpy. 40 years later, Bumpy Johnson became the godfather of Harlem. Powerful. Dangerous, but also a protector. Built schools, fed the hungry. Made sure what happened to Margaret never happened again. People remember Bumpy as a gangster, but the truth is simpler. He was a 19-year-old kid who loved his sister, who learned that the greatest power isn't killing, it's standing up. February 12th, 1924. A boy died. A man was born, and Harlem never forgot.